Introduction to business planning, marketing analysis, financial analysis, amongst others were taught at this stage. Practical internship with business mentors. Participants are placed on internship with a mentor in the same line of business, where he or she learns the rudiments of the trade under supervision. During this period, surprise visits by CVL officials to the participants are made at their places of assignments to monitor progress made, graduation and distribution of startup kits and capital. Upon successful completion of the aforementioned stages, the participants will proceed to graduate and startup kits as well as capital will be distributed to them. A certificate of participation will be presented to them.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for staying tuned with us for this event. Again, I welcome you to the 61st CVL Leader Without Title Leadership Tribute Colloquium. We're so excited to have you with us today. Today, this particular edition is dedicated to women in diplomacy. As always, this event is going to be very engaging, eye-opening, and very much interactive. So please sit tight and let's move together in this stream. I would like to call on the COO, Center for Values and Leadership, CVL, in person of Mr. Dele Tanimo to please lead us in the opening prayer. Mr. Dele Tanimo, sir. Mr. Dele.
Good afternoon, everybody. Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for bringing us together on this program. We glorify your name and we say thank you, Father. As we go into the program, Lord, come and be with us, guide us, and at the end of the day, we shall have cause to say thank you and glorify your name. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen. Thank you very much for that very brief prayer. I'm going to kind of have our prayers afternoon. Yes, again, I welcome you to this event today. As I mentioned earlier, it's going to be very interactive and engaging. My name is Tola Oni, and I'll be comparing this event today. As you know, this is the 61st of the CVL Leader with Title Leadership Colloquium. Thank you again. Please sit tight. We'd like everyone to be muted as we make progress today. We would like to recognize very quickly, as we move on, our honorees for this event dedicated to women in diplomacy. I would like to recognize and also welcome, not in any particular order, but one of our honorees for today's event, in the person of Dame Ambassador Nkim Wadiba Ayaun, the former Nigerian ambassador to the Republic of Ireland and the retired PAM Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I will please welcome her. Please can show us through the various emojis on Zoom to welcome our very own Dame Ambassador in Kim Wadiba Ayaun. Please, media team, are you set? Are you on ground?
Profile of Ambassador Nkem Wadibia Anyanwu. Lady Wadibia Anyanwu was born on March 31st, 1948 in Abia State. On completion of her primary school, she proceeded to the famous Queen's School. She progressed to the premier University of Ibadan, where she studied modern languages. On completion of her studies at Ibadan in 1972, she got employed as a career diplomat in Nigeria's Foreign Service, thereby being part of a group that set up the highly specialized Language Bureau in the then Ministry of External Affairs in Lagos. In view of Nigeria's emerging profile as a regional leader and ahead of such new national committees as ECOWAS and FESTEC 77, Wadibia Anyanwu and her colleagues, who by the way included few male officers, were immediately sent to various countries, particularly Germany, France, Canada, Spain, to sharpen their multiple language skills and undertake courses in international relations. She was particularly sent to Johannes Gutenberg University in Mainz, Germany, for her master's degree in modern languages. On return to Nigeria from the postgraduate studies, she started to serve in various departments within the ministry until her posting to the Permanent Mission of Nigeria, New York in 1979, in charge of the political desk. From New York, she was moved briefly to temporarily man the Nigerian embassy in Paraguay, which had existed at the time. She was further transferred to the Nigerian embassy in Prague, capital of then Czechoslovakia, as next to the head of mission. On completion of her stay in Prague, she returned to Nigeria in 1982 for a brief stay of 2 years before being moved out again to the Nigerian High Commission, London, this time as a sufficiently senior officer to the high-sounding rank of Minister Plenipotentiary and Head of Chancery. In preparation for higher national responsibilities, she was recalled home in 2000 and sent to the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPSS, Kuru, Jos, an institution established in 1979 as Apex Training Institution for Nigeria's top managers in both the public and private sectors. On completion from NIPSS, she was moved to head the administration department of the ministry as Under Secretary, some form of Deputy Permanent Secretary rank introduced in the American Foreign Service in 1972 and adopted in Nigeria in 2000. She was conferred with the Award of Officer of the Niger, OON, and member of the National Institute, MNI, from our NIPSS days. She is happily married and blessed with lovely children. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Ambassador Nkem Wadibia Anyanwu.
Thank you very much, and welcome Dame Ambassador Nkem Wadiba Anyanwu, one of our honorees for today. You're welcome, madam. You're welcome. Thank you very much. And now I'll move on, like I mentioned, in no particular order. I'll be calling on also another of our honorees for this 61st CVL Leader with High Title Leadership Colloquium. And that's in the person of Ambassador Fatima Yari Mohammed, Permanent Representative, African Union Observer to the United Nations. Join me, please use your emojis and different images, clap, ovation, welcome her to this event this afternoon as one of our honorees. Again, Ambassador Fatima Yari Mohammed, Permanent Representative, African Union Observer to the United Nations. Thank you.
Profile of Ambassador Fatima Kiyari Mohammed. Ambassador Fatima Kiyari Mohammed is the permanent observer of the African Union to the United Nations. In addition to representational functions, a mandate includes developing and maintaining constructive and productive institutional relationships between the African Union and United Nations institutions, supporting and coordinating the activities of the African Group at the United Nations, including supporting the African representatives to the UNSC A3, as well as ensuring the effective monitoring, implementation, and promotion of common African positions, AU decisions, through the African Group to the United Nations in multilateral negotiations. Prior to her appointment, she was a senior advisor to the ECOWAS Commission. Her career spans more than 2 decades with a focus on peace, security, socio-economic development, regional integration, organizational development, and project management in the public and private sectors. She is also the founder of the Like Minds Project, a non-profit, non-partisan organization working with vulnerable communities in Nigeria. The organization works with displaced communities from northeast Nigeria, particularly in the area of women and youth empowerment and support to orphans and vulnerable children, OVC. Her academic background is in peace, security, development and conflict transformation, University of Innsbruck, Austria. Sustainable Economic Development, United Nations University of Peace, Costa Rica, and Business Communication, NBA, European University, Switzerland. She also holds a Bachelor of Arts in Environmental Design from the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, Nigeria. In addition to English, she speaks fluent French, Hausa, and Kanuri, and has a basic knowledge of Arabic and Spanish. In her spare time, she enjoys painting, photography, traveling, and learning about different countries and cultures, and engaging in community development activities. Some of her publications and articles include The Future of Nigeria, Security Challenges and Implications for Internal, Regional, and Global Security Environment, Revenue Defense National, Summer 2016, A Human Security and Development Approach to CVE in Northeast Nigeria, Exploring the Role of Women, August 2015, Hashtag Bring Back Our Girls, Psychological Terrorists or Peace Warriors, August 2014, Climate Change, Human Security and Violent Conflict, Challenges for Sustainable Peace in the Lake Chad, June 2014, Engaging Private Sector Corporations in Conflict Resolution and Peace Building through Corporate Social Responsibility, A Case Study of Northern Nigeria, September 2013. Security and Development in Countering Violent Extremism, CVE, in the Sahel Case Study, Northern Nigeria, May 2013. Women as Drivers of Economic Recovery and Development in the Sahel Region, HD Center, EU on Women Discussion Paper, April 2013. Regional Security Lessons from the Attack on Algeria's and Amina's Gas Plant, USIP, Olive Branch, January 2013. Nigeria, Fuel Subsidy Removal and National Crisis, Peace and Conflict Monitor, March 2012. Parliamentary Oversight of the Security Sector in West Africa, Opportunities and Challenges, Case Study of ECOWAS, 2005. Oiling violence, the proliferation of small arms and light weapons in the Niger Delta, FES, 2005. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ambassador Fatima Kiyari Mohammed, Permanent Representative, African Union Observer to the United Nations.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. And again, welcome to this event today, Ambassador Fatima Kiyari Mohammed, Permanent Representative, AU Observer to the UN. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Let's welcome her. Thank you very much. You're welcome. And again, I would like to welcome one of our honorees for today's event. Let's not forget this 61st Cvl LWT is dedicated to women in diplomacy. Women in diplomacy. And we have with us one of our honorees for today's event, and the person of Ambassador Nkoyo Toyo, former Nigerian ambassador to Ethiopia and the African Union. You're welcome, ma'am.
Profile of Ambassador Nkoyo Isotoyo. Nkoyo Isotoyo is a lawyer, development activist, and politician. She served as a member of the Nigerian House of Representatives and as ambassador to Ethiopia and Djibouti. Before politics, she co-founded Gender and Development Action, GADA, an organization to improve access to economic and political opportunities for women in Nigeria. Nkoyo Toyo is an expert in governance with membership in various global women's rights groups. She is also one of the conveners of the 10,000 Women's March in Abuja, organized by Women for Women, W4W, E4She movement to address issues affecting women. In 1974, Nkoyo graduated from Union Secondary School and proceeded to study law at the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, Kaduna in 1975. In 1980, Nkoyo Toyo graduated from the Nigerian Law School and was called to the Nigerian Bar Association. She subsequently obtained a Master of Laws, LLM, degree from the University of Lagos in 1994. For her passion and work in advancing the status of women in Nigerian public life, Nkoyo was granted the Chevening Scholarship to study at the Institute of Development Studies, IDS, University of Sussex, where she received a Master's in Governance in 2001. From 2020 to 2021, she received a Master's in Public Administration, MPA, from the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University, where she was an Edward S. Mason Fellow. Nkoyo's interest in politics resulted in her appointment in 2008 as Nigeria's ambassador to Ethiopia and Djibouti, as well as the country's permanent representative to the African Union and the Economic Commission for Africa. In this capacity, she worked closely with former President Abubakar Abdulsalam of Nigeria within the confines of the AU High-Level Implementation Panel for Sudan and South Sudan 2009 to negotiate a comprehensive peace agreement on South Sudan. In 2010, Nkoyo led the establishment of the AU Youth Volunteer Corps at the African Union and co-chaired a partnership between the AU Peace and Security Council and the Political and Security Committee (PSC) of the European Union on Security and Conflict Resolution in Africa. In 2011, under the banner of the People's Democratic Party (PDP, Nkoyo was elected into the Nigerian legislature as a member of the National House of Representatives. In the House, she represented the Calabar-Otupani constituency of Cross River State and primarily championed issues of social development and social investment. While in office, she served as a valued member of the Foreign Affairs Committee and specifically championed a resolution for the status of the Bakassi people abandoned for 10 years after an ICJ judgment that left them stranded between Nigeria and Cameroon as stateless citizens. In 2022, Nkoyo announced a candidacy for 2023 Cross River State gubernatorial race in a country where 36 out of 36 states are governed by men. Nkoyo's candidacy promises to present a different vision for Cross River State. Ambassador Nkoyo Toyo is happily married and blessed with lovely children. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ambassador Nkoyo Toyo, former Nigerian ambassador to Ethiopia.
You're welcome, former ambassador to Ethiopia and African Union, our very own ambassador Nkoyo Toyo. Thank you very much for that. Like I mentioned earlier, this event is going to be very engaging and interactive, and also very intellectual as well. However, I would like to quickly introduce also a set of people who are also very important to this event today. You know, at every LWT that we have, one of the key components is our panel discussion, where we have a discourse, very robust intellectual discourse on the subject matter. And as you know, today, this 61st LWT by CVL is dedicated to women in diplomacy. I like what somebody just posted on the group, said incredible CVs. Yes, incredible, fantastic CVs. And I believe these women are role models to other women, other ladies, and our girls, not only in Nigeria, in Africa, and all over the world as well. So today, I'll be introducing those who will do justice to the discussion we'll be having this afternoon. Like I said, it's going to be very educative, interactive, and very elaborative and realistic. So I would like to recognize and mention one of our panelists, like I said, in no particular order, Ambassador Maria Oyeyinka Laoshe. I'll read her profile very quickly. Ambassador Maria Oyeyinka Laoshe, please, let's welcome her. Let's welcome her. I'm very fast with that. Ambassador Maria Laoshe retired from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2013 after serving for 35 years, both at home and abroad, in various capacities ranging from desk officer, representative, and chaired the affairs to the Ambassador Permanent Representative of Nigeria. Her last assignment as an ambassador and permanent representative of Nigeria to Austria, Slovakia, and the United Nations Office and international organizations in Vienna. That's between 2011 to 2019. As the Foreign Service Officer, she worked in various departments at the headquarters of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Protocol, Foreign Service Academy, regions of the world, the UN, and the international organizations affairs departments. She served as a representative in Lisbon, Portugal, Paris, France, New York in the USA, Vienna, Austria, retiring after returning to Vienna as a principal representative, ambassador extraordinary, and plenipotentiary of Nigeria in the country, to Slovakia, to the UN, and other international organizations in Vienna, such as OPEC and the OPEC Fund. She read modern languages at the University of Ife, now Bafemi Awolowo University, acquired a Bachelor of Arts in French in the mid-1980s. She also had the opportunity during her service year to acquire a professional UN fellowship certificate for disarmament negotiations. Since her retirement in 2013, she has, as a private citizen, involved in grassroots community development and church activities matters, where she lives in Abeokuta and now in Ottawa State, Nigeria. She has also served twice on election monitoring teams to African countries. And welcome with me today, as one of our panelists, Ambassador Maria Oyeyinka Laoshe. You're welcome, man. Let's do a powerful welcome today. Also, we have a distinguished panelist with us today, in person of Omotola Adeyoju Ilesanmi. Omotola Adeyoju Ilesanmi, PhD, is a research fellow and head, Division of International Organizations, in the Department of Research and Studies of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs in Lagos, Nigeria. He holds a doctorate degree in political science from Babcock University, Ogun State, the MSc in political science, a master's degree in international law and diplomacy, and a BSc in political science, all from the prestigious University of Lagos in Akoka. Our research is focused on the women, peace and security agenda, violence against women, and gender dimensions of foreign policy and international relations. Dr. Edesomi is a specialist on women, peace building process, gender and security sector reforms, peace and conflict studies. He also teaches courses in the areas of foreign policy analysis and diplomacy. He's an alumnus of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center in Accra, Ghana, and has published widely in local and foreign journals and books. Please join me as I welcome to our panel today this distinguished scholar, Omotola Adeyoju Elesomi. Please let's welcome her, let's welcome her. And also today, we have also a distinguished panelist with us as well, also an ambassador, and the person of Ambassador Joe Keshi, OON. You're welcome, sir. Ambassador Joe Keshi, OON, was a diplomat for 35 years. He served in 8 missions before being appointed permanent secretary, cabinet secretariat, and later Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He had earlier served as the national coordinator for the Nigerian National Volunteer Service, from where he campaigned and promoted Nigeria engagement with its diaspora. On retirement, he was appointed as a member of the board of the United Bank for Africa, that's UBA, and later served as its chairman and vice chairman. He is currently the Director General of the BRICS Commission and chairman of AfriGrowth. Let's welcome this afternoon to the 61st LWT panel, person of Ambassador Joe Keshi, OON. You're welcome, sir. Please join me welcome. Let's welcome Ambassador Keshi this afternoon. Let's welcome all our distinguished panelists to this August occasion. Today, just as a reminder, our panelists will be doing justice to our area of focus today, which is basically diplomacy. Diplomacy, and the case maybe, and particularly women in diplomacy. And again, don't forget, this is the first edition of the CVL, that's Center for Leadership and Center for Values in Leadership, Leader Without Title Leadership Colloquium. This is the first edition. Thank you very much. We also like to recognize in our midst today all distinguished ambassadors, excellencies, and all our distinguished guests that are with us this afternoon from all over the world, from the media, from the third sector, from government. We welcome you today. And as we move on, we'll make special recognition as we make progress. But right now, I would like to call on the convener of this LWT today, the founder of the Center for Values and Leadership, our very own Professor Hart Utomi, for his opening remarks. Thank you, sir. Professor Hart, you're welcome, sir. Is Prof on the call at the moment? All right, as we wait for Prof to come in, I saw Prof online just a few minutes ago. Let's check on Prof. Thank you very much. However, as we wait for Prof, I would like again to welcome us to this event. And like I said, it's going to be a very interactive and engaging event this afternoon. So please stay tuned. And after the panel discussion, we have also a couple of minutes for us to also share our thoughts, for participants to ask questions as well, and to make contribution on the topic or the subject matter as the case may be. So CVL organizes the Leader with High Title, that's what it's called, LWT, and the purpose of that is to recognize men and women who have distinguished themselves in their industry and various sectors and segments of Nigeria. This is the first edition, like I mentioned earlier, and other editions have focus on various subject matters from the maritime sector to oil and gas to law to human rights and just name it, different sectors. And today we are focusing on women in diplomacy, and this is the first edition. And in the last couple of series we've had, we focused on women, women shattering the walls, women shattering the glass, the ceiling, and it has shown us that it has represented well the achievements of women, Nigerian women in particular, over the decades, and their contribution to the development of our nation, Nigeria. How our women have done us well, you understand? And we used to say, like we say all the time, behind every successful man is a woman. No, but it's not like that again. Men and women are together, women have proven to us, you understand? I wouldn't want to say what men can do better. I wouldn't want to say that. Maybe I'm biased, but women are doing extraordinarily and fantastically well. They have put all of us men to a very great challenge. And today we are so glad to have these great women with us and being honored with the prestigious LWT from the Center for Values in Leadership. Again, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome. And please sit down, stay tuned. If possible, wherever you are, grab a cup of coffee, grab a cup of soft drink, a cup of water, whatever, and please listen in because these panelists are going to do justice to this subject matter today. And also, please hold your pens, hold your biros, your pencils, your papers, your writing materials so you can jot as much down. And also, very important for us, your thoughts and your questions will also be received immediately after the panel discussion. Again, our honorees will welcome you again to this event today. Thank you very much and congratulations on this honor. I'd like to quickly go with us. I think Prof is having a bit of technical.
Okay.
All right, Prof is here. You're welcome, Prof.
Can I join you on this device? Yes.
Fantastic. Go ahead, sir. You're welcome, sir.
Well, thank you all so very, very much. My apologies, something strange is making me manage to lose 2-3 devices and not connecting, and I get on and cut off. But I'm glad I can now speak. This is a very special LWT for me. In many ways, as I remarked in the founders' remarks, our world is in a particularly tender place in its history. Since the defenestration of Prague in 1618, when emissaries of the Holy Roman Emperor, as the Germans called themselves at the time, were thrown out of the window in Prague, beginning 30 years of religious wars, which ended with the Peace of Westphalia in 1648. Diplomacy has taken a new, if you will, kind of twist in our world. In these years since then, they have been played in ways that make me think very much of the video that Carl Sagan made, the late great sage, physicist and astronomer Carl Sagan, when the NASA orbiter was leaving our planetary system, had if you recall that video that went viral, asked if it could turn his camera back one more time and take a shot of the planet Earth. And there was Earth, just a dot, a speck of dust in this huge universe. And he talked about all the men who have caused rivers of blood to flow to show that they were all powerful on that speck of dust called Earth. And you think of how much more progress this planet could have made if people of power did not get obsessed with their power rather than the possibilities of human collaboration. And in all of these, in this history that has unfolded in our recent time, I have argued that if people with the heart of women played more active a role in diplomacy, perhaps our world will be much further on. And so I'm thrilled that the LWT series has wandered around to women who broke the glass ceiling and began to take their place in diplomacy. Today we honor 3 of them, one of who became the first woman permanent secretary in the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the different ways it has been called through the years, external affairs and so on and so forth. One of them, a civil society activist who showed her mettle when she became a non-career diplomat. And yet another one who is out there in the United Nations at this time, helping bring the African touch to the way the world looks at solving its problems. I would like to say that CVL feels particularly proud of the work that these women do. And we're honored to have a colloquium on the place of women in diplomacy as a tribute to them. I welcome all and hope that Tola can navigate us through the various sequences of conversation and presentation that make this tribute series very special. And this one is significantly different in being majorly viral, since honorees are all located differently around the world. But we have still the same one essence for this series, which is ensuring that what is valued is upheld and celebrated. So I thank you all for being part of this process, and I look forward to participating in the conversation at some point in the course of this afternoon. Thank you also very much. And over to you, Tola.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof, for that brief but highly explanatory opening remark. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Yes, and we continue this afternoon in the 61st LWT Leadership Colloquium today. And we'll be starting our panel discussion now, or colloquium, as the case may be. And like somebody wrote on the charts that these are fantastic CVs. You're very correct. Yes. Oh, thank you. Somebody said just grab a cup of coffee. Now that's fantastic. Okay, you can share the cup of coffee virtually as well. So we all have one with us. So right now, again, we have with us on this panel that will be moderated by Professor Pato Tomi. We have with us Ambassador Maria Oyeyinka Laoshe. You're welcome, ma. We have also with us a very reputable and distinguished scholar and research fellow, and that's the person of Omotola Adeyoju Ilesomi. You're welcome. And we also have, as earlier introduced on our panel today, someone who has served as a diplomat for over 35 years, and that's in the person of Ambassador Joe Keshi O And very well, we have moderating this colloquium or panel discussion today, also our very erudite and distinguished according Professor Emeritus, Professor Pat Utomi. You're welcome, sirs and ma'ams. Prof, you're muted, sir.
Okay. The way that I would like to begin is to say that we are privileged to have Ambassador Joe Keshi and Ambassador Laoshe and others with us. I would like us to really open with the conversation around how well Nigeria's diplomacy has fared through the years. And I'd like to remark here that, you know, every 5 years, the United States of America publishes its quinquennial, what it calls global trends, that looks at the world in the coming 5 years and where things may be and the place and role of the United States in that world. Sometimes that can generate a lot of controversy, as the one of 2000 did in Nigeria, because the one of 2000 suggested that if Nigeria was not careful the way it was going, by 2015, it would have become a failing or failed state. Nigerians got very upset. Many said, the report said Nigeria was going to break up by 2015, which is not what the report said. The process through which the United States prepares that report is a very interesting one. I got to be involved in the subsequent one after that one of 2000, because the way they go, they get think tanks around the world to look at different regions of the world, how things are developing in different parts of the world. And then they will put together these reports. Then they will get their intelligence agencies to do their own reports, get it all mixed up, then get thought leaders to review all of this before they then have a crystallization. In the one that followed that of 2000, I somehow got invited as a global thought leader from Africa to a meeting in Sweden to review that report. To cut a long story short, I mean, Igali, God knows Igali, was ambassador for Nigeria in Stockholm at the time. And Igali, being a friend of mine, I informed him in advance that I was coming. My wife and I were coming. And they were wonderful hosts, even though Stockholm Peace Institute was our host for the conversation. There were several leading lights from around the world, including 3 former European prime ministers and the incumbent foreign minister of Sweden at the time, who had been prime minister just before that. What was interesting in the conversation was when we got around to Africa, I raised the issue of how people were upset about comments made about Nigeria, and it was a very interesting response. I mean, these are Chatham House things, but this is a small group and I can afford to share this, and time has elapsed anyway. A very famous diplomat, former United Nations Under Secretary General, Ralphie Kales, remarked that the problem is not whether Nigeria is breaking up or not breaking up. The problem is that Nigeria has lost its strategic relevance in the world. He said, if Nigeria, if any big power in the world 20 years before that wanted to do something in Africa, they will first stop and ask themselves, what would Nigeria do? It doesn't matter what they do or think, but at least they will stop and pause and ask themselves, what will Nigeria do or think? Says today you can walk into Nigeria's backyard without even giving a thought to what Nigeria will think. If we use that as backdrop, what do we think Nigerian foreign policy has gone through, and why is it not where it should be if it is not? And I'd like Ambassador Keshi lead off on this, and perhaps Ambassador Laoshi to follow. And by the way, I would appreciate, Tola, if you collaborate with me in moving the conversation around, because I might not be able to. Yeah.
All right. We also have with us Dr. Tola Ilisomi.
Oh yeah,
as well.
yeah. Yes, thank you, ma'am, from the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. And that is very, very important part of this conversation. As I like to say, 40 years ago, I spent more time at NIIA than I should. Many people actually didn't know I didn't work there. When Femi Aribisala and a group of us used to gather and debate everything in the world, that vibrancy, where is it to be our foreign policy is today. So let's begin with Ambassador Keshi and then go to Ambassador Laoshi and then through this round.
Ambassador Keshi, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Pat, and good afternoon, Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen. First, allow me to thank the Center for Values in Leadership, and particularly Professor Patu Tomi. You know, annually in this country, many groups, particularly the newspapers, they do honor a lot of people, but most often they focus on politicians and members of the private sector. Whether they deserve the award or not, sometimes they just park all governors and begin to award them governors best in education, best in agriculture, best in this. Meanwhile, those governors have done little or nothing in agriculture, but they are honored. Nobody ever remembers the civil servants, talk less of the diplomats. And here we are today. You remember not just to honor, people from the public sector, but you have also zeroed in on honoring women in diplomacy. And the first set that you have selected, honestly represent among the best in our diplomatic service. From our former permanent secretary, Lady Nwadibianyanwu, to Ambassador Laoshi, we could actually say a lot. Yes, they broke the ceiling, we call it, with their performance and contribution to the growth and development of the civil service. They are among the first ladies, to be made permanent secretaries, and they remain an inspiration to ladies still in the service. Not to talk of Nkoyo that came from from outside the service. She brought a lot of, intellectualism and style when she served in Addis Ababa. And I must confess, I'm sure she knows this, that I was instrumental in sending her to Addis Ababa. It was not the first choice of some of us, but I insisted that we needed a strong lady. We needed somebody strong with the intelligence, to debate development, because all the people we had from the non-career ambassadors were mostly business people, politicians who probably have no clue of what they'll be doing if you send them to Addis. So I actually pleaded passionately that Nkoyo should go to Addis Ababa, and I'm glad that she did not disappoint. She left her mark very well in Addis Ababa, to her credit. And so I thank the Center for the idea of honoring this lady, but more generally of putting lady in the forefront. And I sincerely hope that young ladies who are participating in this program today will look at these ladies that have been honored, who've made it to the top of their professional career, and believe that They can also serve in a diplomatic service. It's a very interesting service. And if they do well, if they study hard enough and follow the system, they too could become ambassador one day and represent Nigeria in so many capacities. So secondly, I say congratulations to all the ladies being honored here today. You deserve it. Certainly you deserve it. And I'm glad that this honor is being bestowed, on you all. But to the question you asked about foreign policy or diplomacy, you can actually divide our trajectory in terms of foreign policy into a number of, sectors. Maybe the first 6 years, the first 6 years, we were just emerging from our colonial past into an uncharted course, into the future. But what we could say about that first few years was the fact that that was when the foundation of Nigerian diplomacy, Nigerian foreign policy, was outlined by the late Prime Minister, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. He laid the foundation of what today is Nigerian foreign policy. Not only did he set out the cardinal principles of Nigerian foreign policy, some of which, is still part of our policy, today. He also wanted a service that was independent and professional. Just to give you an idea of the kind of character and personalities we had at post-independent and their vision for the country itself. He was laying the foundation for a foreign service, but he was also insisting that it must be professional, competent, strong enough, with people of high intellect to represent Nigeria, around the world. And this was also a period in which the world had so much hope in Nigeria as a new independent African, state. And what they did at that time, of course, you could say that it also laid that ground for the battle that we fought for so many years, for the total liberation of Africa and an end to the apartheid regime in South Africa. So you could say, even up to the military regime, there's a lot to be said about our foreign policy. It was strong, it was dynamic. Nigeria achieved probably its higher, world acclaim, between that period and to some parts during the military era too, when we were very categorical. There was a time that the world, as Pat Riley said, the United Nations, the United Kingdom, Americans and the rest, when it comes to African issue, nothing will be done without consulting Nigeria. They will certainly consult Nigeria because of the role we have played on various African issues. So when people say to me that it's a mistake for us to focus on Africa as a centerpiece of our foreign policy, I remind them that not only are we in Africa, we can't make Europe or anywhere else, but that we are the center of Africa, and it's in our best interest, it's in our best national interest to view ourselves from that, perspective and concept. Because at the end of the day, our security, our economic growth and development, you just name it, all depend on what we do in Africa. For example, look, trade. No matter what you produce in this country, for a long time to come, your goods will probably not find their way into Europe. Look, all the food we send from this country to America and Britain in particular, they end up in African stores for African folks. But when you produce goods here and they take them to ECOWAS countries, like when we used to produce textiles, our textiles flooded the African market. So Africa is first our primary playground, if you want to use that sentence. And so it is right to begin to think of it that way, that we have an interest in Africa, and certainly Africa has an interest. There are those who will say to you that if Nigeria grows and achieve its manifest destiny, that it will pull along the rest of Africa with it. And I believe in that in so many ways, okay? But later in years, due to a number of internal contradictions, particularly in the last 8 years, I mean, absolutely the worst we have seen. We've lost focus, we've lost direction in terms of our foreign policy. You know, when some people today are saying, you know, and I'm not the one who said it, I'm just quoting, even in yesterday's paper or 2 days ago, it was there, former Emir Sanusi said that Buhari's economic policies were disastrous. Now, there's no way the domestic policies can be disastrous and the foreign policy will be something different, for the simple reason that foreign policy is an extension of domestic policy. So if your domestic front was disastrous, you can imagine what your external front will be, like. So I just want to say that in terms of our foreign policy, it's been a mixed bag. We have had successes, great successes, by the way. We have had some failures in the last 8 years, But look, the truth of the matter is that we still have very strong, institution. We still have, relatively strong institution. All that is lacking and missing is the leadership and the quality of the people that are brought in to keep that initial fire that we sparked when we came to the international scene at independence. As a Nigerian, I always remain hopeful, that with good leadership and focus, that we can actually regain lost ground. There is nowhere you go and talk to any African leader today. The first complaint, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I served as a special representative, while we were campaigning for an AU seat. And I was made to, visit, I think about 6 or so presidents around the continent. Not only were they prepared to support Nigeria, but the first complaint everybody had is, what is happening in Nigeria? We are missing Nigeria's leadership. And that is the way other African leaders feel. Unfortunately, or regrettably, nobody has been able to fill in that vacuum of Nigeria's absence. Not Egypt, because Egypt is more interested, has its own problems, but more, Egypt said it so itself more first as an Arab country, before an African country. Look, not South Africa, in spite of its clout around the world, because some of the things we've done and we are doing, South Africa is not ready to play. South Africa sometimes doesn't even say itself that it has a responsibility to Africa, and that's the honest truth. So everybody still look forward that Nigeria would recover itself and provide the leadership that is necessary, for Africa to move forward. I think I should stop here and allow some of my colleagues also to make their contribution. But look, my congratulations to those who have been honored today. You deserve it, so enjoy the day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ambassador Laoshi has not been able to join online due to technical issues. So,
well, good to Lady Wadibiayan then.
Dr. Tola, at least for me, we'll go further with that. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Dr. Tola, at least for me, ma'am.
Thank you, moderator. I also want to thank Professor Patutomi and the center for having me. I also want to say that I'm indeed very happy that at least some set of people are recognizing the contributions of women, in diplomacy. It's really very heartening and it's something that really makes me very happy, because women's contributions over the years have just not been recognized. And I'm happy some people have said it's time to recognize women in what they do, the critical contributions they make to diplomacy all over the world. Even particularly Nigerian women over the world are trailblazers in different parts of the world, creating visibility for Nigeria in the center stage. So I want to congratulate the center for carrying this out. It is a great honor, for recognizing these women. Also to congratulate these women that some of us are looking up to as trailblazers. We look up to you there and say, wow, go on, we're back, we're clapping for you, and we congratulate you. You're worthy of this honor that has been bestowed on you. Okay, so what Prof said, I think His Excellency Ambassador Jokweshi has said it exactly, and it is just nothing I really need to add, but to say that, like he said, it's been a mixed bag. Nigeria's foreign policy over the years since independence has been a mixed bag. You've had some vibrant years where Nigeria was there in the spotlight in the international sphere. We've had times that Nigeria practically went to sleep, to the extent that some scholars call Nigeria a sleeping giant. Nigeria's voice disappears and appears, sometimes just going around in circles. And like he said, a lot of people are asking what is happening to Nigeria? What is happening to Nigeria? So Nigeria's foreign policy over the years, particularly like I said, in the past administrations of the past, have been more reactive than proactive. Nigeria has become a nation that just reacts to issues that happen in the international sphere. We've not seen that assertiveness on the part of Nigeria. We've not seen Nigeria trailing blazing the trail there and becoming that voice that Africa needs. It's like Nelson Mandela said in his time. He said, if Nigeria succeeds, Africa succeeds. And Nigeria has, over the years, in recent time, shown that position of that spotlight that Nigeria had in the past, such that African nations, South Africa, for instance, is beginning to speak Africa. So like he said, manifest destiny is there. We cannot detect that. We just need leaders that want to be assertive, that have the political team on the international fair to take that to speak. And so I just
Is it a network? You can see here. Okay. Dr. Elisomi, please, can off your video. We can't hear you clearly now. The network is breaking. Dr. Elisomi, you can off your video and just use the audio. Thank you, Mike. Can off the video and just use the audio. I think we can't hear Dr. Elisomi at this point. Or is it just from my own end, or is it a network? Yeah, Dr. Elisomi, if you can hear me, just off your video and just use the audio. The network is a bit poor and we can't hear you. All right, I think, yeah, the network just knocked Dr. Tola Elisomi off. I'm sure she will join us back very shortly. Yeah. Prof, are you on board? Is Prof there, or the network has also? All right. Okay. All right, fine. Okay, good. It's network issues that are joining back. I also like to know if Ambassador Laoshe is also in the house now. I was told she also had network issues earlier on. Please, is Ambassador Laoshe in the house, in the room now? Okay, she's not yet in. All right. And the network just knocked off Dr. Tola and Prof as well. Okay. All right. So I only have myself here now and one of our panelists. So both of us are very strong networks. That's His Excellency Ambassador Keshi. Okay. All right. Terrible network. I understand. All right. So Ambassador Keshi, the network is a bit challenging. However, I have a few questions here for you, and I believe you'll be able to help us do justice. Just few, about 3 of them, sir. Ambassador Keshi, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear
All right,
you.
fantastic. All right, sir. So I have a few questions from here quickly, since the network, I don't be friendly with our other panelists, including Prof today. Let me pick some questions very quickly from the box and some other sources as well. Now, it says, how would you describe Nigeria's current diplomatic relations with other African nations? I know you touched that a bit, and what factors are contributing to this relationship? I know you mentioned that briefly. I just touched the brief again. Again, the question is, how would you describe Nigeria's our current diplomatic relations with other African nations, and what factors are contributing to this relationship?
Well, you know, we maintain what we call cordial relationship with almost all African countries. What I mean is that we're on friendly terms, and we try to remain on friendly terms with everybody, especially our neighbors, where we once used to have what you could call a special relationship, because we engage, you know, our neighbors in what we call a policy of good neighborliness, which is to say that we paid particular attention, you know, to our immediate neighbors, realizing as well that whatever happens in our immediate environment could also, you know, affect us. So it became, and it's still part of our national interest to pay close attention to what happens in our, you know, some will use the word in our backyard, but not really in our backyard, but around us. So we have every reason to be interested in what happens in Benin, what happens in Niger, what happens in Chad, what happens in Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, and even as far as Ghana and, you know, ECOWAS region. So the direct question is, we have a very good relationship, but, you know, a relationship that is not properly managed, handled, oiled, greased, you know, could somehow become cold along the way. And I think this is what has happened to us also, you know, over the years. But basically, the good news is that a number of African countries, particularly on the West Coast, our neighbors, they still have tremendous amount of respect for Nigeria. One, because they do understand what we are going through internally to start with. But above all, they also recognize that Nigeria is a power within its own right once it gets its acts together. And that even in spite of our own problems, we are still able to provide assistance to a number of these African countries in so many ways that sometimes we can't even disclose, in order to ensure peace and stability in some of these countries. So they have respect for Nigeria, they respect Nigeria, they admire Nigeria, but they continuously want to see Nigeria, you know, a strong, vibrant country, and a country that can also provide them some security and development, as I keep saying, that if we grow, become industrialized, and actually open up our borders more, particularly to trade, we'll be trading, but they would also want to trade, with us. I give you an example of something I said many years ago in Austin, Texas. We were at this event, and surprisingly, in the initial program, I was to be the first speaker. But when we go down to Austin, the South African ambassador then had actually talked to the people that he wants to be the first to speak and so on. And they came and pleaded, if I don't mind. I said, no, whatever he wants to say, let him go ahead. And then immediately he finished, I was, invited to the podium. And my simple message to the audience was, whatever you heard about this from the South African ambassador about South Africa and the strength of South Africa, I said to the audience, know it that Nigeria is the last destination. And I gave them reasons that South Africa do not have the kind of population that Nigeria has to maintain the market that Americans, are looking at. But guess what? Of course, you all know very well that post immediate South Africa, how many? So many, more than 60 foreign countries in South Africa immediately moved over to establish a signpost here and there in Nigeria. So that is exactly what more and more of such things would happen to us if only we can get our house in order. That's all we just want to do. Put your house in order, and you will see that you'll be trading with and between a number of African countries, because those who are growing, they are looking for market to sell their wares. And they look at the huge Nigerian population, which is an advantage to a large extent, and they would like to send in their goods here. And I sincerely hope that the African common market that is being planned, with headquarters in Ghana, that it would actually do enough to improve intra-African trade. But basically, we maintain very cordial relationship with every African, country on earth. And that's why it was a surprise that some of these ECOWAS leaders, their first thought when a coup happened in Nigeria was to go to war. And that shocked everybody. And you could, of course, see the reaction, particularly from here in Nigeria.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ambassador. Dr. Tola just joined us, and I think the network kicked that out again. Dr. Tola, are you in now? I think the network kicked that out again. Yeah. So thank you very much, sir. Before Prof comes up again, I think Prof is back now. I just want to ask also a question that just came up now. You just mentioned the situation of Nigeria being antagonized, various comments in respect of the recent coups in the sub-region, particularly in the case of Niger. Yes, Dan. There's a question here that says, in the light of the ongoing security challenges in Nigeria, in the light of this ongoing security challenge, how has the country's relationship with neighboring countries, nations, been impacted, particularly in terms of managing regional security issues? You understand it? I don't think we still have ECOMOG. I know we still have ECOMOG and things like that. And remember the brouhaha that happened in a couple of weeks with respect to the issue in Nigeria and co. So the question again is, in the light of the ongoing security challenges in Nigeria, how has the country, that's Nigeria's relationship with the neighboring nations, been impacted, particularly in terms of managing regional security concerns? Ambassador Keshisa.
Well, our security problem is an internal affairs. Where we have had problems has been the fact that some of the arms and ammunition, in fact, this is a little bit controversial and uncertain, but we suspect some, if not all, of the arms and ammunition that the bandits and Boko Haram and the rest of the people, are using to create insecurity in the country could have come through our borders. But then, you don't blame neighboring countries. You actually, for me, you blame yourself. Number one, if you can't manage or control your borders, you have yourself to blame. Secondly, if you cannot engage other countries and ensure that they also close their borders to illegal flow of arms and ammunition, you also blame yourself, because this is what you are supposed to do once you have an intelligence that if the arms, as everybody suspects, is coming from the crisis in Libya, and there are gun runners selling arms and ammunition to people who want them and things like that, and they are able to smuggle it into your country. Now, as long as you do not have border with Libya, Nigeria does not have border with Libya, but you have countries along the line. So if you cannot persuade these countries to ensure that their border is not as porous as ours, so as to stop the illegal flow of arms and ammunition, you honestly have yourself to blame. Again, it shows you part of the failure of diplomacy, in recent times. Because I'm saying this, when we were at ECOMO, and to a large extent, I was also partly involved because I served for about 6 or 7 years in Sierra Leone and participated in at least 16 of the 19, summit meetings and other meetings that, took place to find a solution to the crisis in Liberia and Sierra Leone. We got to a point in which we realized that, look, for us to be able to persuade Charles Taylor, we needed to stop the flow of arms to Charles Taylor. So we went to Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire, and met the late president. And we warned him, we told him that he needed to stop the flow of arms from Libya to the rebels to Charles Taylor and company in Liberia. And we told him the consequences of not stopping the flow of arms, that ECOWAS has decided, ECOMOG has decided that it was going to man the borders and stop the arms from going in. And if the arms do not go into Liberia or Sierra Leone, they were going to stay in Côte d'Ivoire, and that could become a problem. Guess what happened? The crisis that later, developed in Ivory Coast or Côte d'Ivoire, and where there were so much arms available to all the parties, it was the arms that could not get into Liberia or Sierra Leone. So this is the same thing. If we had blocked the flow of arms into our own territory, we probably wouldn't be in the situation where we are, today. But this has not affected our relationship because Nigeria still continues to want to maintain relationship and persuade, these countries. I'll just think that what failed is that we were not hard enough on some of these countries to make them realize that if they do not block their borders, there'll be consequences. But I think we were shy or reluctant, given the relationship, the cultural affinity, the ethnic affinity, the religious, connection, as you see playing out in the case of Niger today. We were a little bit, should I say, circumspect in dealing with the situation. But by and large, in spite of the security we feel, we are still capable of, in terms of security, helping other countries. After all, we had our own security situation when we sent troops to help sort out the problem in the Gambia. So we are still relatively strong, but we could be stronger, we could be better if we put our house in order. I always emphasize that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Keshi. Certainly, we need to put our house in order, and we will certainly be stronger if we do that. Like I say, charity begins at home. And I'm very glad that Nigeria has at least relatively maintained or still being recognized as that giant of Africa as it is may be. That's fantastic. Very good one, Dr. Tola. This one is back in the house now. That's fantastic. So, Dr. Tola, listen to me. Please, can you share your thoughts with us on that same topic in terms of our relationship with other African countries? especially as regards or related to security. Using this case of Nigeria and the recent coups all over the place in stand as an example. Remember, like I mentioned in the last few weeks, the president made some statements through ECOWAS and as a nation, and what a lot of noise here and there, even attracting both international organizations and the West. So what are your thoughts about this, Dr. Tola? Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. The network has really been bad. I've been thrown in and out. And even when I joined, I've had issues with unmuting myself. And I was advised, by one of the hosts to switch off my video. That's why my video is switched off. I was making a point before I was thrown out. I don't know if you can all hear me.
You're loud and clear.
Okay, so the points the Prof had mentioned and asked about what's our perception about the state of Nigeria's foreign policy. I was just trying to round up that, and there was a point I wanted to make when I was thrown out, and it was that I think the domestic challenges to a large extent, and maybe the focus of our leaders, on combating this or addressing these challenges to a large extent has affected our level of, assertiveness on the global scene. Challenges, of course, as we know, terrorism, banditry, insurgency, and all that has led to Nigeria's priority being based on the domestic challenges. And of course, we know that, your domestic challenges actually, they give birth. The core function of your domestic policy is a core function of your foreign policy. And so what happens domestically to a large extent affects how you are able to, assert yourself internationally. So domestic challenges for me, I think, particularly the security challenges, will be one of the issues that have affected the way Nigeria has been able to throw her weight around in the international sphere. We know, I think it was 2017 now, to the extent that even some of our peacekeepers had to be called back, to the country so that we could have enough military on ground to confront the insurgency and the terrorism in the country. So I think that's an issue. But like I said at that time, leadership is key. Leadership is very key. If you have a leader that is focused, Nigeria has all it takes, like Ambassador was saying, to get back to that position that we have. And so the second question, if I understand well, has to do with Nigeria's relations with our neighbors, particularly maybe considering the issues of coups. I'm not too sure.
Correct.
The coups that take place around, yeah.
Correct. Security.
I don't think, for me, I believe it's just the Francophone countries that at this point Nigeria has issues with. Francophone countries that are trying to delink, as it were, from France's neocolonialism and the dominating and domineering role that France has on these countries. And so for me, those countries are like wondering why Nigeria is, because Nigeria, of course, is the chairman of ECOWAS. And so this ECOWAS is Nigeria. The leadership of ECOWAS is Nigeria. So I believe it's just those countries that will probably have maybe issues with at this time because of the fact that Nigeria is taking a leadership position in ECOWAS. But for every other countries, I don't believe Nigeria has issues with them vis-a-vis, the security situations, because Nigeria's good neighborliness stands. Nigeria has a policy on good neighborliness. And over the years, Nigeria has maintained that. However, the issue of coup has led to a situation whereby Nigeria, as the chairman of ECOWAS, as chairman, Nigerian president as chairman of ECOWAS, has taken this position. So I believe there's really nothing beyond the cause that could affect our relation with the neighboring countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Elisomi. Thank God. Fantastic. The network is now doing us very well. Professor Patutomi is back now, so I'll hand over again to Professor Patutomi. Prof, you're welcome back, sir. Yeah, Prof. I think you're muted. Please, can we please comment from? Okay. I think we see how we do the network. Okay. Let me move quickly to our honorees this afternoon. Good afternoon here in Lagos. Oh, the network is up, Prof again. I just saw Prof left. Yeah. Okay. I'm moving quickly to our honorees now. Just a few questions, and we have to do this as quick as we can because of the network issues. I'll move to Ambassador Nkoitoyo, who used to be in Ethiopia and the African Union. Ambassador Nkoitoyo. Yes, Ma, in respect of regional organizations, like ECOWAS, the African Union, as the case may be, where you serve, I'd like to ask, as Nigeria, have we, the roles we're playing in these regional and national organizations over the years, when we're called or when we're nicknamed the Giant of Africa, where Nigeria was able to make major decisions, you understand? We're able to make major entries, the apartheid in South Africa, the situation in Liberia, and just name it. Do you think that Nigeria still occupies till today that strategic position or role, as the case may be, Ma? Thank you.
Well, thank you again. Thank you so much for having me. I cannot say it better than what one of the outstanding ambassadors in the field has said. Ambassador Keshi has laid out the nature of what that relationship means, the weight of that relationship. And I think Dr. Tola as well has alluded to the fact that your value, the value you come with, is as strong as the context of your local diplomacy, the way your your diplomatic engagements at home and the strength of your government at home is. But let me put it probably make a few points here. In the African Union, we're still one of the biggest donors. In ECOWAS, we are the main donor. And the language is that he or she who pays the piper dictates the tune. What hasn't happened is that Nigeria hasn't been dictating the tune. As long as our money continues to drive these two bodies, we do have quite a lot of leverage within them. We had consciously, in the interest of Africa, taken a back position and refused to seek to lead those organizations, particularly the African Union Commission, the ECOWAS Commission, and so on and so forth, in order to allow smaller countries to have a sense of belonging. There's a lot we need to do going forward. We need to review the basis of our involvement. And in reviewing it, we need to use that review process to re-establish our voice and our dominance. Ambassador Keshi said something very profound. When I was ambassador in Ethiopia, I remember an incident where at the Peace and Security Council, there was a time when Côte d'Ivoire was going through some crisis on account of the elections, and South Africa positioned the ship in the West African waters. And under our constitutive law, charter and convention, South Africa had no business coming into West Africa. We were ECOWAS. We are the dominant force in ECOWAS. And at the meeting, I gave them an ethic proverb. And the proverb was that that is to say, the hippopotamus is a lazy, sluggish animal because of its size. But until you take the hippopotamus out of that bush or out of that forest, other animals will continue to defer to the hippopotamus. That's an ethics saying. Until you take Nigeria out of this African context, other countries will continue to defer to us. The problem is we have not taken advantage of our position on the continental platform. You saw the little attempt by the current government over Niger. They relied extensively on Nigeria to try and go to war in Niger. They knew that if there was one player that could do that for them, I mean the international, it was still Nigeria. There was no doubt in their minds. So the point I'm making, therefore, is that it's not a function of what we're able to do and leverage from these platforms. It is whether we are ready and we have the critical human resource within the Foreign Service itself to take advantage. In times gone by, we had very strong and strategic leaders in the Foreign Service. And these were the men and women who fought for the country. And the voices of these men and women reverberated across the world. Today, I think we have lost quite a bit of those grounds, and largely because increasingly our home policy, our national policy is in disarray. So yes, Africa will continue to understand and privilege the position of Nigeria. If you notice, they always come back to people like Obasanjo, Abdul Salam, Jonathan, our leaders, Ambassador Keshi himself. Many of these people are brought back onto the platforms of Africa to be used in the negotiations across the continent. So we haven't quite lost our significance. What we haven't done in recent past is that we have not put people in charge of that ministry who are in a position to navigate the international corridors of power. One of the features I saw as an ambassador was something I personally called external diplomacy. And what that actually meant was that you find the ministry itself engaging in just sending people who didn't have the kind of expertise that we used to know the ministry for in the past. People just came to ministry meetings, hardly aware of what the issues were. So when you argue at a meeting as a Nigerian, you would find out that the Nigerians were totally missing in the meeting because the people who were the experts were not made to come to the meeting. People were sent to meetings just on the basis of it's your turn. This Emilia Call thing is very, very problematic. It's there too in our foreign service. So we need to go back to specialization. We need to, look at the quality of knowledge and experience that our ambassadors, some of the finest intellectuals in the foreign service. But today we don't use them. We don't use. The country has stopped being about excellence. It's about just anybody who we can put together. So I don't think we need to continue to rehash this broken record. The record is the home front has to be put in good standing in order for us to be able to become a global voice. But I think it's not something it's impossible for us to do. I think it's something we can do. Look at what happened in Sudan. It was Abdul Salam Mbeki and Boyoyo of Burundi that negotiated the membrane of Sudan into Sudan and South Sudan. So we still do play quite a strong role in terms of the things that happen both at the continent and at the subnational level and subcontinental level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thanks for that. I'd like Prof to join in now. So Prof, Tomi, please, can you join in on the discussion, sir?
Well, thank you. Tola, is it okay for me to say a word?
Oh, go ahead, sir.
All right. Oh, thank you so very much. The flow of the conversation points to the work that we have to do. But I'd just like to join it here and let our colleagues wrap up from their field experience. You know, Liberia is really, for me, a great big test case of Nigerian effort in African diplomacy. And Ambassador Keshi will understand part of what I'm going to say because part of his tour was in Sierra Leone during those crisis years. I had a classmate, a Liberian classmate, who became Liberian ambassador to Nigeria during the course of the crisis, the war in Liberia. His name was Sirenius IV. Sai and I were in grad school at Indiana when one day in 1979, I think I was coming back to my apartment and there was a U-Haul vehicle in front of Sai's apartment. And I said to him, Sai, where did they go? He said, people say, look, you should come back to Liberia. Things are rocking and he's here. What's he doing with PhD? He should come back. So Sai was gone. Returned to Liberia. I didn't hear from him or see him until about 1989 or thereabouts. I had, of course, come back, become involved. At that time, I was deputy managing director of Volkswagen. And he arrived Nigeria as ambassador of Liberia to Nigeria. I was on Idejo Street here in Victoria Island. I was living in VI 2. And we used to sit together in the evenings and lament the African story. And one day, Sai said to me, in fact, he came with the president at the time, who is also an Indiana person. In fact, after he became Amos Sawyer, after his tour, after his presidency, returned to teaching at Indiana. And Sai said to me, you know what amazes me about you Nigerians? You know, I mean, you pour down Nigeria's blood like water on the streets of Liberia to save us, and we're very grateful. You know, you spend Nigeria's money like it's going out of, circulation to save us, and we're very grateful. See, but what I can't understand is that you all are doing the same things that got us where we are. Are you not able to learn from us? He went on to tell the story of, he said, look, he got back from Liberia, from the US, when he left me behind there to come and enjoy the good life. Before you knew it, he had Mercedes, he had a house, he had this and that. He said, and he saw things going wrong and he could not speak up. And he said, I couldn't speak up because I was going to lose my Mercedes, I was going to lose my house and this. And then one day, Sergeant takes over, though. And he saw things going wrong further and he couldn't speak up because before he knew it, people would, on the streets, literally stop you and take your Mercedes and you say, thank God, it's only the Mercedes. Anyway, long, very interesting story. And he says, but of everything you are doing in Liberia, you are not even on the watch. And it came home to me when eventually we, as Nigeria, brought some peace to Liberia. And the man that was picked to be president drove to his inauguration in the car of the US ambassador after we had done the donkey walk, we had taken the beating, and so on and so forth. And I've always wondered about the role that the diplomatic service in Nigeria is allowed to play in policy input. Were the diplomats not able to let policymakers know that we blew it after all the sacrifice and the effort in Liberia? Now, this is my last, if you will, contribution from which I would like perhaps some flavor of response. And then, Tola, you can close the colloquium and then we can honor the celebrants of the day.
Thank you, Prof. Yes, I'll just to rounding off statements now to round off. I'd like Ambassador Anyanwu who has been with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as permanent secretary, to throw a bit more light on this. Ambassador Nkoyotoyo mentioned situation of us having what is referred to as Estaco diplomacy, the need to have the experts, professionals, those who know this, know their onions, be in the ministry, be in foreign service, like it used to be, as the case may be. So, Ambassador Anyao, please, what are your thoughts about this? And also make a rounding off statement, irrespective of all the points every discussant have made, including Prof. Ambassador Ma.
Hello, can you hear me?
You're loud and clear, Ma.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you for inviting us, honoring us. I've listened to what Prof has said and to what Ambassador Keshi, one of our most accomplished diplomats, have said, and also what Ambassador Nkoyo Tuoyo has said. You are asking me about the Esther Code diplomacy, amongst others. Well, I would like to say to you that when I was the permanent secretary, I don't think that we practiced Esther Code diplomacy, because at that time, we made sure that those officers who were on particular desks would be assigned to go to the conferences which they were covering. I don't want to make my ministry to seem like an angel amongst other ministries, but I used to, when we would chair as the focal point before the ministries that will go to Law of the Sea, delegation to the conferences for the Law of the Sea, to the drug conference in Vienna and other things, we made sure that our own officers were the desk officers. So they were quite au fait with what they were going to discuss. But usually from the other ministries, we would see that the younger officers who were the desk officers and therefore current with issues and who had been coming to the meetings at Foreign Affairs would, on the point of going to these conferences, be dropped. And there are more senior officers who had not come to the meetings that the other ministries were holding with us. It will be those ones go away. Now, we had no way of telling another ministry who they would send. But when I noticed that, I now decided to tell those other ministries that please, whoever would be going to the delegations would have to be the officers who prepared or who were part and participation in the preparation of the brief, the Nigerian brief that we will be taking to those international conferences. I would say that I did this to make sure that some of these lapses were covered. I must say that 60–70% of this happened. The desk officers would be the ones assigned, but in some other cases, they would also be overruled by their own principals who would insist on going. That's what I would like to say about the comment that Ambassador Nkoyo made about Esther Code diplomacy. Because for us, it was not about, it's my turn now to go, but about how hardworking and how correct you were with the topic being discussed. That's what I would say. You have the conference as Professor Utomi, Ambassador Keshi, Ambassador Oyo have spoken about our place in the Committee of Nations. Yes, many people are wondering, has Nigeria lost its place? Like they are not as strong. I put an inverted comma, strong, as before. But I say no. Nigeria has always underplayed its hands, being called the giant of Africa. Nigeria has always tried to bend backwards to show other West African nations in particular and other African nations in general that they had no role to play as the overbearing big brother. It is true that Nigeria helped so many people. We only talked about Sierra Leone, tangentially, and Liberia. Nigeria, when they talk about ECOMOG, Nigeria was actually ECOMOG. It is true that Ghana and the other countries, they supplied contingents like platoons, but Nigeria, the main bulk of the work, not only financially, but on the ground in the areas of conflict, were done by Nigerian soldiers. But even then, you would have Nigeria having the largest contingent, but to make sure that nobody would say they are playing the big, overbearing big brother, you would have another general being the commanding officer. After Martin Luther Agwai left, General Martin Luther Agwai left the ECOMOG forces in Liberia, it was the Ghanaians that took over, and from then on, no Nigeria took that part. Again, in South Africa, which we have forgotten, Nigeria played such a huge part in making sure that Nigeria, that South Africa and Zimbabwe got their independence. Because if you recall, even Nigerian school children used to collect money to put into that fund for liberalizing the Southern Africa. All Nigerian civil servants at that time, their salaries were cut and a percentage taken from their salaries to go towards that fund. Nigeria spent so much money. We were to the point that although we were in West Africa, we were part of the Nigeria spent so much money, and yet afterwards, because Nigerians don't want to be seen as pushy, they allowed other countries to take the principal part after they had finished. Nigerians had finished making the terrain safe and sound for them. That's what I would like to say. Especially in South Africa, you saw the part that the South Africans played later when Nigeria was expelled from the Commonwealth. Zimbabwe, South Africa, they never came to support Nigeria, who had been the main support for them all through the years. It is by the singular act that President Obasanjo, then General Obasanjo, did by making British Petroleum, by nationalizing British Petroleum, that actually made it possible for South Africa and Zimbabwe later to gain their freedom. But what happened afterwards? Nigeria was forgotten. I think, too, that part of the blame should be laid squarely at our doors. In the European Union, you will see that Germany and France occupies the leadership position. Why? Because they are the main fund suppliers. It is a case of he who pays the piper calls the tune. But in Nigeria, Nigerians have a tendency of supplying the funds and then not ever asking the countries, this is what we would like you to do for us afterwards. They just supply the funds, go in, get the country safe and sound, then move out and keep quiet and let others who practically did nothing come and take the glory. It's like you said about the Liberian president riding in the car of the United States ambassador. When you talked about ECOMOG in Liberia and in Sierra Leone, Nigeria was ECOMOG. Nigeria was ECOMOG. It supplied more than 98% of the funds, material, men that was used for that to bring freedom and peace to those two countries. But afterwards, Nigeria did nothing. It is also part of, I don't want to sound very unpatriotic here, but sometimes when technocrats advise politicians, I am sorry to say that that advice is seldom listened to or taken. Take the instance, for instance, nobody knows today that Nigeria built a school in Equatorial Guinea and also built a hospital for them because the money was sent through not so normal methods, because the technocrats would advise that it should be said, this money is being given by the government and people of Nigeria. But you would see that from head to state to head to state, the money would be advanced as if on a private, personal basis. I don't want to mention names here, but I would like to say that part of the blame is to be laid at our doors. And for me, it is because when diplomats, when field officers, which is what I will call ourselves, or technocrats, give advice, that advice is seldom taken. And it is this why we have found ourselves in this position. For instance, now there is this talk of let's go to war to Niger. If ECOWAS is saying this, if there is going to be war, which we all are advising against for several reasons, it is Nigeria who will bear, as usual, the lion part. Because up till today, Nigeria funds ECOWAS for more than 90%. Up till today. And yet, it benefits Nigeria, apart from having the ECOWAS buildings here, having the ECOWAS stationed here, headquartered here. Apart from that, you do not get the effect of a country that is funding this huge organization of 16 states, funding it by 90%. So I think as a diplomat, as a technocrat, that part of the blame lies with the way our leaders think, especially our political leaders. they do not allow technocrats to advise them. And I don't think that this relates only in the field of diplomacy. It cuts across the board. Those are my thoughts on the subject.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was very, very explicit. Thank you for going in depth to really bring to our knowledge the fact that Nigeria still occupies a role in the Committee of Nations. However, we've not been really assertive as we should be. We've not been strategic enough. And you also mentioned how interplay of politics and interplay of ministries also come to play. And moving forward, it's very obvious that we like Ambassador Keshi, Dr. Tola, and Prof mentioned, including Mr. Koyotoyo, we need to really look at our internal first before going external. It's our domestic diplomacy, our internal diplomacy, our internal system, domestic system, that will to a reasonable extent also impact our external or foreign diplomacy or missions, as the case may be as well. We need to look inward as well, maximize, you understand, the human resources we have, especially amongst our technocrats and people who are experienced. And there should be a good balance between politicians, quote unquote, policymakers, and our technocrats, as the case may be. Thank you very much. Our panelists have done fantastically well to this topic. Thank you very much. I'm so glad to have you. And please, can we please put our hands together for them where you are? Send an emoji. Let's thank them for this very educative, informative, and interactive engagement or discourse today at this 61st LWT Leader Without Title Leadership Colloquium organized by CVL. I can see Dr. Tola's hand up, and so we'll open the floor now for just 10 minutes, for members of the public or those of us who would like to make contributions. But I'd like to honor Dr. Tola's hand, so let her go first. Dr. Tola, Minister, you can go ahead. I can see your hands up. Can you please unmute Dr. Tola? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good. Thank you for everything. Thank you for having us. But with due respect, sir, when I got this invitation, I was told that we're going to be speaking or looking at women in diplomacy. I was expecting, another line of question or discussions here today. I see that we discussed the normal issues that are being discussed when it comes to issues of foreign policy and diplomacy. I would have expected, sir, with all due respect, that we're honoring women in diplomacy. We want to know what are their challenges. What is their experience as women in diplomacy? We know that women contribute a lot. They make very unique contributions to diplomacy, to foreign policy, both on the bilateral or multilateral basis. I had thought we'd probably be discussing that. What are the barriers they are facing for younger women? How can they be role models? Ambassador Keshi had mentioned it earlier that this discussion, these women have done so well in their profession, and that he's hoping we'll have more women. But we've not had anything. The line of discussion has not even said anything about that. We've not looked at what do they do as women in diplomacy. What are the challenges they are having? What kind of contributions do they make? How can more women be actively involved? I had thought we'll be looking at that, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tola. You're very correct, but we have to just divert a bit for one or two reasons. However, since we have about 10 minutes now for some kind of an open floor, let's start very quickly with you, and members of the audience who can also bring in their quota generally, and our honorees can also contribute to that, including other panelists. So what are the key roles? Like we mentioned earlier, like you also mentioned, this theme is around women in diplomacy. So and I also mentioned that women these women we have here, you understand, have our mentors, have our role models, you understand, they've chartered the glass ceiling, as they say, when it comes to diplomacy, not only in Nigeria, and not only in Africa, but in the world at large. So let's start from the next few minutes, 10 minutes we have open to everybody now, like a kind of open mic. So what are the key roles? You understand? We already know what key roles have played, but what are the challenges women have faced, for instance, in diplomacy? Remember when I was in school, there was a lady, I studied history from the University of Illinois, and she told one of our professors she would like to become a diplomat. The professor told her, that's going to be very tough for you to become, it's going to be very tough. The professor gave a number of reasons, and I thought, well, it could be really tough. So let's ask that question now. So, Dr. Tola, from your experience or from your research so far, please, can you mention what things you think or you've seen as challenges? Then we'll move to our other two female honorees today. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I would just like to start by saying that the profession, diplomacy as a profession, is a highly prestigious one, and that people, an elitist profession. Over the years, it has been dominated by men. I mean, you know that. So many men, it's a profession that's just in comparison to the military, that is seen as a man's world. And of course, over the years, gradually we've seen women come in there, but very few, particularly, at the senior leadership decision-making positions, it gets thinner and thinner. It's like a pyramid. Under, you probably have career, foreign service officers, you have women there and all that. But when it gets to the top, you begin to see, they are just dropping out. It's getting very, very few. It's very slim at the top for women. And so the wonderful representation of women, and lack of adequate participation of women in diplomacy is a key issue. And just like other areas too, that there's been calls for gender equality, increased representation of women, increased participation of women. I think diplomacy is also an area that there should also be advocacy for women to participate more. And in this regard, even the UN itself, had come up with dedicated a date on the 4th of June every year as the International Day of Women in Diplomacy, to highlight the contributions that women make, the challenges they face, and to also advocate for more women. And so I want to use this opportunity to, like I said earlier, to first of all commend the CVL for recognizing women in diplomacy. It's usually his story. It's the story of the men all the times. We see the men, but the women are absent. I mean, the stories are being told, and women's roles are being erased, not projected the way the roles and the contributions of the men are being projected. And so, but women are doing so much, and they are doing so well. We have examples. These wonderful women that you're honoring here are so examples, and there are so many. Before, I don't need to call them here, but we know them, Nigerian women that are blazing the trail all over the world, that are shattering this glass ceiling. And I just want to appeal to our honorees that, you know what, we should not rest on our oars. You've achieved so much, but let's look back and encourage women that are coming up. There are so many women out there that will look up to you and say, wow, these are role models, but they don't know how to go about it. I know that when we have students coming on visits to our institutes, when I see students of Department of International Relations, the first thing I do is to look at the gender composition of that class and see, what's the percentage of women and men in that class, and to encourage the women not to drop off, because a lot of them start by, okay, they have a degree in international relations, but they end up not practicing. They just drop off into something else. So the first thing I do is to encourage the women and the girls and say, there's space for you there. You've got to, push forward and get to the peak. And of course, I call the examples of the Nigerian women that have done so well, and I put visibility, for Nigeria on the global scene. We call them out. I look at them as role models that young girls can look up to. So I want to appeal to our honorees now that they should not rest on their hours. They've done so well, they've achieved a lot, but women are still there, and there's a need for more women to be brought into this profession. There's a need for them to mentor younger girls, younger women, so that they can come in, step into their shoes, step into their shoes in this profession, and then we can have a more equal representation and participation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. That's a powerful advocacy for women in diplomacy, Dr. Tola. I can see Ambassador Fatima's hand up. Ambassador Fatima, can we please unmute Ambassador Fatima, please?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Oni, for this opportunity. And also, let me just very quickly also thank CVL and, of course, the convener, Professor Patutomi. Good to see you, sir. And also to thank all the panelists. It's really been a very, very enlightening morning. I've been running between two meetings, but I've been able to follow most of the conversation. And I must say it's been very enlightening. So thank you to all of you. Just a couple of comments I want to make. First, regarding the overall discussion in terms of Nigeria's role and in terms of the opportunities, in some cases missed. But I think generally speaking, in terms of its policy, in terms of its focus on Africa, it is clear that we continue to operate based on fundamental principles, which include Africa's unity, obviously, but also the promotion of peace, stability for the continent, the role that we play in the sub-region, but also the broader continent, and also in terms of economic cooperation and development of our continent as a whole. And I think despite the challenges that have been brilliantly outlined and the gaps that exist as a country, we do continue to have and enjoy a certain level of recognition, but also good relations with our neighbors and many of the global partners. And we do continue to remain, to a very good extent, a strategic powerhouse. However, I do absolutely agree, especially with my seniors who've kind of taken us through, if you like, history and their experiences in terms of where we were at, where we are today. I think there are a number of opportunities that we can still leverage on, especially given our membership in the various institutions, ECOWAS, the African Union, and of course here at the UN. And I'd just like to say a couple of things regarding the issue of peace and security in particular, because this is really where I sit here. My office plays a key role in terms of coordinating not just the African group, but also the three members, three African members that are in the UN Peace and Security Council here. And I felt it important to make this point because, whatever we talk about in terms of prosperity and progress as a country and as a continent, we cannot do it without peace and security. And I think one of the opportunities that we really need to focus on leveraging on is in terms of our role as the potential of our role, let's say, as a global player in terms of peace and security. At the AU Peace and Security Council, for example, we have a de facto permanent seat. It's not written, but it is, Nigeria has always been part of the AU Peace and Security Council. And I always say that we also have a de facto permanent seat here at the UN Security Council as well, because the seat for West Africa does not rotate, unlike the others. And I think the opportunity here is to kind of look at how we can better coordinate the opportunities that we have having those seats and ensuring that in terms of our policies, especially our outlook in terms of peace and security, particularly for our continent and our sub-region, there are opportunities that we can take advantage of using those memberships. Second point that I want to make is really the point that was raised by Professor Tola regarding the role of women. And I think it was a very important point that she raised. I do agree that very often we do get carried away with the reality of what is happening globally, which is normal. But of course, in terms of the role that women play, since Beijing and the 1325 resolution, we know that although some progress has been made, we still have much more to do. But in terms of progress, and going back to the issue of peace and security again, the issue of women, peace and security, for example, is becoming more and more mainstream. And I think the role that women play is being more and more recognized in terms of brokering peace, building and sustaining peace. And the issue is discussed very often at the Security Council. Where the AU is concerned, we have a special envoy on women, peace and security. And we also have a youth envoy at the AU. The two times that we've had the youth envoys, they've both been young women, and they've done phenomenal work in terms of mobilizing youth, but also being role models for young women. So I think these kind of examples are things that we can use to see what kind of progress we've made as women. Despite all, I don't want to focus on the challenges because we know what exists. But I think we all have a role to play in terms of ensuring inclusion. And I think inclusion is important, but we also have to be sure that it isn't just tokenism. You have a panel of 4, yes, let's put one woman there. No, it shouldn't be that. It should be about what it is we're trying to get out of these meetings, what it is we're trying to get out of the discussions. And in terms of inclusion, I'll quote somebody that I admire a lot, a woman leader who would always say, listen, we shouldn't wait to be invited. If someone doesn't invite you to their table, you make your own. And I'm seeing more and more now that women are actually taking the lead in terms of setting their own tables, setting their own agendas, and we're being listened to more often. So challenges exist, yes, but I think there are so many more opportunities, and we can all collectively, both with our colleagues, our male counterparts, and of course the young people, which I think really are doing phenomenal work, broadly speaking. And I think the opportunity of technology is also giving us this opportunity to share information, but also to see what is being done, across nations and across generations and across sectors. So just wanted to contribute those points. And once again, thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you for this honor.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's one of our honorees, the person of Ambassador Fatima Yari Mohammed. She's a permanent representative, I'm right, African Union observer to the United Nations. Thank you very much, Ambassador Fatima, for that very short but very expository and comprehensive comment. And also, thank you for taking us to, from the general diplomacy to the role of women, and how women have been doing tremendously well in the foreign service, and how we have more opportunities for women to also, other women and ladies and girls, to also be part of what is happening in the diplomacy, the sector or service, as the case may be. And thank you very much for representing us well. I would like to, because of time, I'd like to thank all our panelists. I thank Ambassador Keshi for his role. Ambassador Keshi, thank you very much. I'd like to thank Dr. Motola Ilesomi. Thank you very much. I would like to thank, although she was able to join us due to network issues, she tried her best. That's Ambassador Maria Laoshe. Thank you very much. And also, again, I'd also like to appreciate the contributions of all our honorees to this discussion. They made the discussion very broad, very robust, and very rich. I want to thank our very own Dame Ambassador Nkem Wadiba Anyanwu. Thank you very much, ma'am. I also want to thank again Ambassador Nkoyo Toyo. We thank you so much for your contributions to the discussion. And also, like I mentioned earlier, from the UN, Ambassador Fatima Yari Mohammed. Thank you very much, ma. So very quickly now, we're moving into the award presentation proper. And a few minutes after that, we have to round off this event. So quickly, in no particular order, also, I'll be calling on our honorees. Please, as I call you, want all honorees videos to be on. I'm going to call them one by one for the presentation of awards. As you know, this is the 61st Center for Values in Leadership Leader with Title Leadership Colloquium and Award event, as the case may be, where we recognize both men and women who have distinguished themselves and done outstandingly well in various sectors, industries, professions, and so on and so forth. And in this 61st edition, we are honoring women in diplomacy. And today I just mentioned to us 3 honorees that we have for this particular edition. And in no particular order, I'll be mentioning or calling on our honorees for the award presentation. It's virtual, but I'm very sure CVL will get the tangible or the physical award to us. So the first person I will call in for the award as an honoree in this 61st CVL LWT Colloquium is person of Dame Ambassador Nkem Wadiba Anyao. Dame Ambassador Nkem Wadiba Anyao. And while presenting that, I can see the COO and ED for the Center for Values in Leadership. Mr. Dele Fanimo will be doing that presentation. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. On behalf of the chairman, the founder, the management and staff of CVL, we present this award of excellence to Dame Ambassador Nkem Wadiba Anyao, OON, MNI, KSGG. Today, being Wednesday, September 6, 2023, in recognition of our outstanding contribution to diplomacy in Nigeria at the 61st CVL Organized Leaders with Title Colloquium. Congratulations, Your Excellency, and we wish that you'll be a role model to upcoming diplomats in Nigeria, particularly female diplomats. Congratulations once again.
Congratulations, receiving in absentia actually, but on behalf, and thank you, our very own COO of the Center for Values in Leadership, Mr. Dele Fanimo, for that presentation. I'll call quickly now on the second person, but in no order. Like I mentioned earlier, I'll call on Ambassador Nkoyo Toyo. Ambassador Nkoyo Toyo.
Again, we are also honoring Ambassador Nkoyo Toyo, who has been an exemplar in the field of diplomacy. So this award of excellence is for her, and also in contribution to diplomacy in Nigeria and at the global level. We say a very big congratulations to you, and we hope that you will continue to be a role model to upcoming women that are aspiring to be like you in future. Congratulations.
Congratulations, congratulations. And thank you for representing well, for bringing those mentees, as the case may be, to receive on behalf of our honorees in this 61st. And I would also like to call one of our honorees for the 61st LWT as well, the person of Ambassador Fatima Yari Mohammed.
Yeah, and on a final note, this is for Ambassador Fatima Yari Mohammed, a diplomat of no mean repute, and we are offering this award to you because of your outstanding job in the diplomatic world over the years. And this is in recognition of what you have done to Nigeria and to the global world in diplomacy. Congratulations. And we hope that you continue to be an ambassador of Nigeria to the world. Congratulations once again.
Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation, the CEO of CVL, Dele Fanimo. Thank you very much. And we believe our honorees will continue to work to go higher and higher and become much more outstanding in all their endeavors. Again, I say to the honorees, this is the first CVL LWT, congratulations. Many of us have been looking up to you. We're still looking up to you, and we'll keep looking up to you. And we thank you for always making us proud. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very quickly now, because of time, we just want one minute statement each from each of our awardees. 1 minute statement each from our honorees. Their response just to closing words, as the case may be. I would like to call them, like in no particular order. I'll call first Ambassador Nkuyotoyo. Just one statement in 1 minute. Thank you, ma'am. Ambassador Nkuyotoyo.
Thank you very much, Tola. It's an honor and privilege for me to be one of the those recognized for this tribute. I think the point that has been made about the role of women in diplomacy is an important one. At a personal level, I worked into the African Union and championed the work on internally displaced persons from conflict in Africa and the convention that came out of Kampala. I believe that work like that speaks to the critical voice which women bring. It is also our belief that if more women were involved in this, there will be less conflicts on the continent, and there will be more attempts at ameliorating the effects of those conflicts. We come from a continent that's very troubled, and international diplomacy and the way Nigeria has looked at it has been more towards the building of peace and reconciliation across Africa, and the dignity of the Black skin across the world. As we look forward to all of this, this award has reinvigorated my commitment to keep this work going in whatever form, and to present myself as an example for younger women in the future. Let me take this opportunity to thank Ambassador Keshi, who stood out to ensure that I was sent to a multilateral position as a non-carrier. And on account of that, I was able to distinguish myself at that level. And also in terms of the recognition I got to become an ambassador in the first place, the outstanding work and contribution of Uju Madwikwe, who was then foreign minister. And although he's passed on now, but at the time when he was the minister, we didn't have a president in active service because President Yaradua was very unwell. But we were able to rally together in those troubling times to provide leadership and voice for Nigeria. And I must say that it was a unique and refreshing experience to see me as a woman and many others come together and work particularly with young people, but also would work with what we call the conflicts of the continent to provide Nigeria's leading voice on the continent. Thank you very much. I am honored. This is the first time I've received any award on account of the role I played in diplomacy. And I hope that this indeed will be a memorable experience for me going forward and in my personal life. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Congratulations to our honoree, Ambassador Nkuyotoyo. We know so many things you did. Your work with the young people was fantastic, especially in the AU. Thank you very much. Thank you. And the second person I'll be calling now is Ambassador Fatima Koyari Mohammed. Ambassador Fatima, are you there? I know you've been in between meetings. Please, want to mention the names. Technical, please help on mute. Okay, let me move quickly to Dame Ambassador Nkem Wadiba Ayaun.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes. Okay. Oh, fantastic. Ambassador Fatima Kwari Mohammed is here now. Go ahead, man.
I'll wait for Ambassador Nkem. Please go ahead.
Ambassador Nkem, are you on? I don't think Ambassador Nkem is on now. So Ambassador Fatima, please go ahead, please.
Thank you. I think the host needs to unmute us, but it's fine. I'll be very brief, just to thank CVL once again and the convener for this honor. I'm truly humbled by it. And I must say, for me as well, in terms of my own country recognizing my role here, this is also the first time I've been recognized by an institute, by a Nigerian. Well, sorry, it's the second time actually. But it's truly an honor. I'm very humbled by it, and particularly humbled to also share this platform with the other honorees. And I hope it'll also be an opportunity for us to, connect, find ways of figuring out, how we can better represent and move forward on many of the objectives and based on the principles that we've set for ourselves. I'm still here actively working here at the UN, and any opportunities that you foresee in terms of what we could do using this platform, I would be more than happy to work towards that. So thank you once again, and congratulations to the other honorees as well.
Thank you very much. And that's appreciation and final words on this event from Ambassador Fatima Kwari Mohammed. And I'll have Ambassador Dame Ambassador Nkem Wadibayaun. Ma.
Okay, thank you very much. And foremost, I want to thank Professor Pat Utomi for singling out women in diplomacy and deciding to honor us. Because in the civil service and in the public service and in the diplomacy, women seem to be, in spite of the hard work they put in, they seem not to get quite as much recognition as the men. But what I want to say is I am talking to the young women out there. We are your role models. We say to you, you can do it. It may seem very difficult now, but when you start at the ground level as a level 8 officer, put yourself out there. If there is a meeting going on till 10, 11 p.m., stay on for that meeting. Do not think that because you're female, you have to get home earlier. I know this is a ploy that is sometimes used both in politics and other things to take women out of the equation. But standing there, do your work to the best of your ability. Do not let anyone treat you as anything but an officer of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, working as an officer. You do not work as a female officer, nor do the men work as male officers. We work as officers, and I must thank the diplomatic service, the Nigerian diplomatic service. They were first and foremost in this fight, in recognizing that women should be treated at par with men. Because for us, we do not say wife of a male officer, we say spouses. So your spouse can either be the wife of a foreign service officer who happens to be male, or the husband of a foreign service officer who happens to be female. We say spouses to make sure that I want to tell you that, yes, it can be difficult trying to move your career forward as well as motherhood, but you can do it. Even while I was pregnant, expecting 8 months pregnant, I was going to meetings in London representing not only the High Commission, the Nigerian High Commission, but Nigeria. And when they would look and say, is everybody ready to go on till the next 2 hours? I will also say to them, is everybody ready to go on to the next 2 hours? Because I didn't think that my pregnancy detracted me from doing the work that I was sent to do. And even while I was nursing, I did it. You may not have your husband there 24 hours a day with you, but it can be done. What you have to set your mind to is that you must do work. When it is given to you, do it as well as you possibly can. Make sure that you turn in your work well. Make sure that you are always on top of any assignment given to you. And make sure that you do not try to get people to look at you as a female and to be sorry for you or to expect less of you because you're a female. No, you can get to the top. I give you an example. It was in the documentary, the interview I made, when I was interviewed as a very young level 9 officer in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And they asked me, what did I want to be finally? I said, not only would I be an ambassador, but that I was aiming to be the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In that conference, there was only one female, and she was the director of accounts there in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Every other, about 10 other members were male, plus, of course, the male permanent secretary. And they were all surprised that I didn't attain to be an ambassador, which for a diplomat is the highest I can get. But I thought that I should even aim further to be the permanent secretary. So I say to you young girls, I mentor young girls in my church, in wherever I am, in whatever capacity, even with the Beijing plus 25 years after Beijing, I do mentor girls. And I say to them, you can do it. Set your mind on the fact that if it is doable, you can find a way of how to do it. And make sure that you look at you focus your sights on what you want to achieve and do not want to frog leap or do anything as if someone is doing you a favor. Nobody is doing you a favor. The work is out there. Go out, grab it, do your best, and you will see that by the grace of God, you will succeed. I wanted to speak to the young girls out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. We are so happy, so excited, and thank you for re-emphasizing and reinforcing that motivation for our young people, especially our ladies and our girls. Thank you so much. And I can see various members of the audience putting their hands together for all our honorees. We really appreciate our honorees. Thank you very much. Thank you for making us proud as a country, as individuals, and as women especially. Keep breaking the glass, Lily. Keep breaking it. Thank you very much. And now we have come to an end of the 61st Center for Values and Leadership, Leader Without Title Colloquium and Awards. Thank you to all participants, all honorables, your excellencies, ambassadors, for staying all through. I monitored attendance from beginning to the end, and it has been very good. We thank you. Thank you so much. On behalf of our chairman, that's the person of Professor Ifeoma Otomi, and our founder, Professor Pat Otomi, and all the entire management staff and all staff, including volunteers in the Center for Values and Leadership. We thank our honorees, we thank our panelists, we thank everybody that have stayed with us and made this possible today. And we pray that as we move on in our various endeavors in life, that the Almighty God will continue to be with us. Again, thank you for being part of it. And wherever you are this afternoon or later in the evening or whatever time it is at your place, please make sure that for our honorees, you pop a bottle of champagne. Yes, pop a bottle of champagne wherever you are. It could be now, it could could be later today, it could be tomorrow, but just for these women who have done outstandingly well and have distinguished themselves, please make sure you pop a bottle of champagne today. Again, we thank you for being part of this event. Thank you very much, and God bless you. I remain your compare Tola Oni, that's my name. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, and bye. Thank you. Thank you. Long live Nigeria. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you. We don't take this for granted. Thank you for staying all through in the last few hours. Thank you. And we keep inviting you. And please, you can check our social media handles, CVLNG, on Instagram or YouTube. We're going to be posting some of these documentaries on those handles as well. Please check our handles for more information about CVL and even particularly this event, and a number of those documentaries we had are going to be displayed on that platform. For those who also need more information about CVL, can also check those handles. I can also shoot us or send us an email, the case may be. We are also willing to receive your email and hear from you. Thank you again for being part of this event today. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm so delighted. Thank you. Yes, I can see some comments on the chat. Yeah, it says I'm very passionate meeting. Yeah, it's very passionate meeting. I can see so profound, so profound. Thank you. I can see that. Yes, and quite a number of comments in the chat, and some sent to me directly. Yes, our audience really appreciates everybody. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you, and God bless.
We leave now.
Running in 4 communities in Delta states, namely